Real quick video on how to change the brakes on a Dodge Ram 3500 dual rear wheels. This is the front brakes. You're going to need obviously brake pads, a clamp, some brake cleaner, probably some PB Blaster because it's rusty, 16mm on a 3/8 Allen, and an extension 15/16, half drive socket, 7/8 half drive socket, breaker bar, a loud hammer, a quiet hammer, 21mm 24 to make the 21 longer, some rags, a couple of pry bars, a jack that you can't see, a jack for support, a jack to get it off the thing, and an adjustable soft spacer. The wood cracking sound is normal, and your wheel should be off the ground. Put your jack underneath the metal. That doesn't fit, so reposition your jack. The wood cracking sounds are normal. It's Mother Nature having one last word. And then Mother Nature winning slightly. We just need the jack to get it in the air. We're not going to rest it on the jack because you can't trust the wood or the bottle jack. But a jack stand has no problems. Once you start getting all the weight, and the tire's off the ground, slide your jack underneath the front fork mount, which now you can see somebody's playing the drums with the trash can. Gonna let down on your jack. There we go. Now, I don't like to take all the weight off of that in case this decides to go into the ground. So, and you may be thinking, make sure you put the lug nut somewhere that you can't move them with your foot or a tool. Why? God damn it. Sometimes the wheel is stuck. Then you have to kick it. So in order to change the disc and the brake pads, you need to take off these bolts by using a pry bar to hold the wheel lug steady. 21mm wrench with a 24. And you're going to take this, hold it like that. It's going to give you much more leverage. Now, just do that a lot more times. Once you've taken all the bolts off and you've lost them, it's time to hit this thing with a hammer. Oh, I missed a bolt. I know I said bolt, but I meant nut. Once you've taken all those off, hit it with a hammer. Now, you can hit it with your soft hammer, or your tripod could fall over. Sorry. Okay. You could hit it with your soft hammer, or you can use your purse, or use one that makes some noise. For this one, since I'm going to be reusing this part, I'll use my purse. Purse. Alright, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to take this caliper off. There's two small bolts at the top. This one, and there's one at the bottom. Right somewhere. I can't see it. These are 16 millimeters. We're going to get these bolts later. Lefty loosey, righty tighty. Lunchtime. Take that bolt all the way out. Make sure you throw that in the garbage so you can look for it later. Next one is this one that you can't see because I can't tilt the camera back enough. Take that one out. Lose it. Now you're ready to take the caliper off. This sometimes can be a little tough because the caliper pistons are somewhat squeezing the pad already. You can hear it scraping. So you're going to want to pry it in this gap and this one. Before you get too carried away and you commit, I forgot the bungee cord. I have found said bungee cord. Go ahead and get your bungee cord ready. Because what you're going to do is you're going to hook it around somewhere just to support the weight of it. Because if this cable, this brake line gets a lot of tension on it, you could break it. This thing might be heavy, but it's free. Gonna flip that over. We're gonna run our bungee cord through here, back in through that. That guy's hauling. There you go. Bungee cord is doing its job. Nothing's too terribly tight, so should be okay. The next thing you're going to take out are the brake pads. So those still have a little life on them, but not much. So this metal tab right there, which is not in focus, will start squealing if the pad gets down far enough. That's your indication to change it. Or when there's almost nothing left, you can look at it from the outside. Change it. These little metal clips, don't forget to take those off. We've got new ones. Do the same thing with the inside brake. You can also use the pry bar you were using earlier. Kind of help free it up. There we go. Don't forget your little metal clips that I can't see. There we go, there's one. Should be one at the top. Okay. So the next one we're going to take off is this bolt and that one. This one holds the shoe mounting bracket. This one holds a shoe mounting bracket. This is the one that's 15/16 somewhere. So make sure your 15/16 is spray painted with red. Put that on there. Get your breaker bar, which you've been sitting on the whole time. Hopefully you can use enough force to break this bolt loose. Lefty loosey, righty tighty. Remember that. Going the wrong way. Yeah, see, it loosens a lot better if you go the right direction. Alright, that bolt's free. Do the same thing with the top one. Get that bolt all the way out. The caliper should be free, but make sure you take off the one on the back. Now, as far as the disc itself, it is very, very tight here for when you install the wheel. So you're going to need to use some of that penetrating oil, PB Blaster or Rust Away or whatever you got. Let it sit for a few minutes, and then on the side where you took the caliper off, you're going to beat this like there's no tomorrow with the loud hammer. So PB Blaster right along this ring. Once it's gone all the way around, give it a few minutes. Like I said, normally you have to hit it from back here. Yeah, we're gonna have to hit it. Make sure you lay down right where you've been putting all your tools and the bolts that you've got left over. So you have to move them all in order to hit this thing. So this is gonna be loud. Rip headphone users. If that doesn't work, swing harder. Get your eardrum ringing. Then the thing is free. And I cannot hear anything out of my left ear. Put some earplugs on first. If you're already following this. Alright. Now that that's off, assembly is the reverse of disassembly. Or just watch this. What I like to do is I like to hit anywhere where there's pieces that are going to go together. Try to get this smudge, schmoo off of it. Maybe hit this with a little bit of brake cleaner, maybe a little Scotch-Brite pad. But when you put the lug nuts on, it's going to squeeze. When you put the lug nuts on, it's going to squeeze all this together. Honka honka. What I found over the years is don't try to resurface drums or discs. They're so cheap nowadays, just buy new ones. So much liability, so many questions, whether or not somebody measured the thickness right, just get a new one. That was like 50 bucks. So the new discs are going to have a film of oil, keeps it from rusting when it's in the package. Make sure you use some brake cleaner. Clean it off, hit the back of it, don't worry about the front, because you're going to have to handle it a little bit. You can wipe off the front when you're done. Slide the new disc in place. We're going to slide the the hub on for the lug nuts. What this is going to do is this is going to make sure this is seated as close to perfect as possible. Use your soft hammer. And go find the nuts that you lost. I found 6 of the 8. That's gonna have to do. And do the same thing. So when you try to tighten this, the whole thing's spinning. So that's why I use the pry bar. Did you go see that guy's son? I didn't. Anyway, you're gonna put the pry bar, wedge it here, and then you need to see which way it has to go. By just turning it, it's gonna get stuck one way. There you go. Turn this over so it can actually use the shape of it. Now, when you tighten this, it's going to hit the bottom of that. It's going to wedge into the ground. Eventually, maybe. Hopefully. There we go. Take your wrench, double her up. So what I'm doing here, put the bolt on there. Use the other wrench like that. Now the wrench is twice as long. So you can get plenty of leverage. These do have a certain torque spec, but I know it. There's 2 ways that you can know exactly what torque spec. One is by using a tool. One is by using your elbow, because your elbow will click. It's probably about as tight as you can make it. Or do like I do. We're going to put it as German torque spec, since we're using German tools. And the German torque spec on this is Guten tight. Once all those are tight enough and you know you've thrown your back out, move on to the next step, which is the caliper mount. So as far as the caliper is concerned, it's very important to make sure that you grease these. Take this all the way off. That should come off. So this is what actually causes the caliper to slide in and out freely, so you don't hang up and start braking the entire time, overheat your brakes and prematurely wear them. So you're going to take this out. This little rubber piece can come off. Just going to clean both of these up. So you have one on that side, you'll have one on this side. So these are kind of lubricated, but we've got grease in the pack. So we're going to clean them up with some brake clean. We're going to clean them up with a nice clean rag, and then what we're going to do is we're going to spray a little brake clean in this hole and just try to get any shmoo that's in there. Now, since I'm still kneeling on my super absorbent, almost knee crushing cardboard, I'm going to put this plastic down that the rotor came in. You don't need much. Get it wet. Wipe her off. Should be nice and clean. It's probably stained from a little bit of dirt and grime and 100,000 miles worth of braking on it, but it should be pretty decent as long as you get all the stuff off of it. Yeah, it's good. Don't worry about these boots. As long as they're not torn, don't have to worry about it. Keeps the dust out of the or dirt out of the grease, so the caliper can continue to slide back and forth. I don't even know if you can see that. There you go. So your caliper can slide back and forth. Put your boot back on. Make sure it goes all the way over the end. Kind of give it a spin. And then what we're going to do from here is we're going to use a little grease that came in the pack. Put a little bit on that. And put a little bit in that hole. So if I just put this clean one in here, I'm going to give it a little twirl. You see there's not that much dirt in there, but it's going to be enough to make it so we can't clean it. So just a little bit in there. Clean off the end, let it sit. If you want to, you could take one that you've already put back together and cleaned, really put it in there, free up any of the junk, kind of clean it out. Should be good. So the brakes came with this high temp grease. Definitely not enough in it, but it is high temperature, so that's what you want to use. Put it on one of the rods. Go ahead and make a mess of it if you want, but when you put it in here, what's going to happen is the tolerance is so tight, even if you try to make it so that it's going to be loose, it's still going to come out like on the bottom. Can't see it. Okay, there we go. So when you put this in, give it a little twisteroo, put it all the way down. That should seat back on there. And go ahead and take it back off. So, completely covered. Slides nice and easy. Dust one on, you're good. Do the same thing with the other side. Maybe. Don't want to go too crazy. These don't move very far, but you just don't want them to stick. So, put it in there. Let's give it a little spin. Try to make sure you can get it around all the way. Even if it boils up, it's fine. Push it all the way. Nice and smooth, not getting caught. You can take it back out. You can see the entire rod is nice and lubricated. Time to install it. Now take your bracket. It's only going to go on one way, so you can't put it on backwards. Trust me, it's not possible. Line it up. Make sure you use one of the bolts that you kept. Yeah, that should be fine. So one thing that's a little tricky for some people is you need to get these calipers, the pistons, to retract back into the cylinder so your new pads can fit over your brakes as well as the brake pads. Easiest thing to do, get an old brake pad that you're not going to use anymore, it's garbage. Put it in there and use your C-clamp. Put it in the middle, it'll compress both of them at the same time, and just tighten down. Now, you don't want to do this too fast because the fluid eventually will get so hard you can't compress it. So, as you move it, the fluid's going to continue to move in. When it comes out of the caliper, it's going to go in the line. It's going to go back to your master cylinder. You don't have to take the cap off, it should be vented. But keep screwing in your your C-clamp, and those pistons will eventually start to get smaller and smaller. Okay, just like that. Caliper can't go in, the pistons can't go in the caliper anymore. So, done with that. Take off your clamp, take off your pad. Until you hit the brakes inside the cab, these will stay just like that. We'll give you plenty of room to put it on your drum disc. So the pads themselves are pretty simple. They're only going to go in one direction as well because of their shape. You can put a little bit of grease at the bottom of this so it slides a little better, but shouldn't matter because these return springs are going to be doing their job. These little metal clips, you can put them backwards if you really want to, but it's going to make a heck of a racket. So what you want is this little lip to be to the inside. Push it back, should fall right in place. Snap. I'll do the same at the top real quick. The brake pad itself is only going to go one way. I like to start off at the bottom. Kind of get it in its home. Make sure it fits all the way down. Put the little black spring on the outside. Line the top one up. As soon as it finds its way, it's good to go. Do the same thing on the other side, just without looking at it. So the back side should look just like the front. And I just realized that my lens is dirty the entire time. So now you're going to take the caliper, slide it right over the top. And since I forgot to show you, these are the original pads. These are the brand new ones. Sure, the face looks different, but it's the thickness. So, could I have run these more? Sure. This little metal tab right here, whenever the pad itself gets so thin, this will start to scratch up against the actual drum. Makes a scratching noise. So what's going to happen with that is every time you brake, it's going to start screaming because this little thing's going to start ding 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 ding. Terrible noise. So now we're ready to take the caliper and put it on. Make sure you support it. Don't leave that on the other spring. So with these collapsed, it's going to fall over this nice and easy. Small bolt here, it's going to go on the outside of that. So if you need to, you can push that in. Lines up nice and easy. So the bottom one won't go in until you push that. It'll kind of hold itself. I accidentally found the other bolt. I guess we'll use it. Put both of those in. don't need to go crazy with them right now. Still gonna make sure everything moves nice and easy. Screw them in until they're tight. So now you can see how the caliper should move like that, because you put grease on your these two rods. Also, collapsing the pistons made that go on a lot easier, because with those sticking out as far as they were, I wouldn't have even got it past one pad. Grab your 16mm again. Let the loosey righty tighty. So this little piece can kind of spin. It doesn't really matter. It can go any way it wants. There's no locking paw or anything like that. Just kind of, you can hold on to it with a bigger wrench over here if you really wanted to tighten that thing down like crazy. But we all know the torque spec I'm going to use. More than when it came off. Do the same thing on the top. So now your caliper's bolted on. Everything still moves nice and free. Now, the most important thing is to go pump the brake nice and slow. Without the engine running, you won't have a vacuum booster, so it may be a little difficult to push. I'm going to keep you guys right here, and then you can see this piston down here, and this piston will actually start to extend. That's what gives you your clamping power. That is super important to do before you try to back out your driveway and then have to pump the brake 4 or 5 times to get the caliper to stop. So make sure it stops. Make sure it's nice and free. Go ahead and give this a little spin. Whenever you're driving, eventually those things will start to free up, and the springs here will make sure everything's nice and good. You're going to take it for a test drive anyway. The box itself is going to have some instructions on it on how to make sure that you get the right heat cycles so that the pads are embedded, and seating on the front of the front face on the disc, so you don't have any warping or anything like that. Now these are some big beefy brakes. Still follow the procedure, but shouldn't have to worry about it. Go ahead and clean up the mess that you made. Good. Go ahead and put your tire back on. Good. Now, I do have a torque wrench, obviously. Make sure that you follow the procedures in your manual or in the owner's manual for tightening these. The reason why I didn't tell you any torque specs is because your vehicle may be different, may have different wheels, may have different options, may have different anything. So find out what you got and make sure you torque everything to the correct torque. Especially these aluminum wheels, you're going to want to make sure that you retorque these after about, I don't know, 100, 200 miles. Reason being is that the tires and the vibration may back off all of these. So use a torque wrench. Thanks for watching. By the way, do the same thing on the other side. Pretty much identical.